Throughout this course, I learned a great deal about the academic mindsets and how they apply to my daily life as a teacher. There were a few key learnings that stuck out to me, and one of the first ones that I gained was the importance of explicitly teaching the language of the academic mindsets. Knowing that students don't come in understanding how to speak about their growth, their belonging, their desire to succeed, their ability to succeed, and really the value of their education, emphasized to me the importance of simply teaching the language. Another idea that stuck out to me was the portfolio. I think maintaining a log or a record of student activity has been a strategy that I've been trying out this year. For students, records and logs are tangible ways for them to reflect on their growth. So right now I'm just going to figure out how to assess their growth, but I think the portfolio is one idea that might make that happen. Next, my journey to practicing the growth mindset has been a big struggle. However, after Eduardo's podcast, I felt like I had something concrete to try out in my classroom. The learning zone and performance zone concept makes so much sense. When students know they're in a learning zone, assuming learning zone expectations are clear, they will feel comfortable enough to challenge themselves and try new things. The pressure of the performance task isn't present to scare students away from experimentation and revision. Then, once they are ready to try out what they know, the performance zone doesn't focus on new or experimental tasks. Instead, the emphasis is on minimizing mistakes. It just makes sense. From one of the articles, one of the main takeaways was that failure is simply information. I think I've heard it said numerous times that failure is just part of learning. However, calling failure information seriously changes its connotation. Immediately, redefining failure as information takes away the sting from the word entirely. It becomes helpful rather than self deprecating. I know in my own adolescence, it was underwritten with fixed mindset. However, the view of myself as a person in progress who will make mistakes, which stems from my relationship with Christ and so many supportive colleagues, has dramatically changed my outlook. I hope to be an example to my students of what it means to grow and be okay with mistakes, because after all, failure is just information. It was also emphasized to me that modeling is best practice and that I will be the best teacher of growth mindset and academic mindset simply through my actions. Next, we have to trust our kids. That was one key learning that I gained from the MOOC. They know what they like, they know what they don't like, they know they have questions about the world around them, they know that there's an adult world they don't quite understand but for some reason want to be a part of. They know that when they really love something, they will go for it with all they've got. They know that they have aspirations to be better than they currently are. No kid wants to be worse off. No kid wants to be illiterate. Kids are by nature progressive. And someone wise once told me that it's easier to slowly redirect a stream than try to stop it altogether. And finally, the brain is a muscle. Bronson's article encouraged me to take time to teach my students that their brains grow and get stronger by encountering challenging situations. I will most likely do this sometime in the following week. I love that idea. Regardless of fixed or growth mindsets, brains are strengthened by challenge. Next, I want to discuss the changes that I implemented and some of the results that I saw. One of the changes comes from this idea that language is a driving force in creating and maintaining a culture. So, changing the language in the community will change the course of the culture. My plan was to introduce the growth mindset language through a tool a fellow colleague has shared with me called the Six Thinking Hats. This tool I use to give visuals and sentence frames to critique the work of a peer. In my ELA class, we've just started using the thinking hats this past week. The hat we focused on was the green hat, otherwise known as the growth hat. When students wear this hat, their critical feedback takes the form of specific suggestions for improvement. I think you could blank because it would blank, or what if you blank because it would blank. Now, without commenting on whether a piece of writing was good or bad, students were forced to look for what it could be after revision. In my experience, most students want to be treated like adults. However, without the language of adults, they cannot enter into the grown-up stratosphere. So with this explicit instruction, my hope is that over time they're able to view themselves and others as works in progress. Finally, next steps. Now, this is a daunting part of this whole course, but I am eager to take it on. Um, First of all, the problem I'm addressing in my learning community is the lack of a language to engage in the academic mindsets. My school district is moving in the right direction by emphasizing the importance of project-based learning for teaching our students the academic mindsets. However, administrators are not using the language of growth mindsets with teachers, which means teachers aren't using the language of growth mindsets with their kids, and kids definitely won't use it if the teachers aren't. And as a bilingual citizen, I know full well how language can be the doorway into entirely different culture. And now the idea of systemic change. One of the readings said that change is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm a lover of metaphors, and the race is one of my personal favorites. It holds true in so many situations in life. The adoption and incorporation of academic mindsets is no exception. I know that showing children that they belong in a learning community, their ability and confidence will grow with their effort. Their work has value, and they can succeed is more valuable than any Googleable fact. I agree that weaving these ideas into an antiquated, obsolete system starts with teachers who understand the importance of these mindsets. The growth mindsets are timeless. Overall, what I gathered is that this problem is huge, and we as teachers, as educators, need to acknowledge that these issues we face in education between students, teachers, schools, districts, state government, and federal government are much bigger than changing pedagogical practice. The truth is that education systems, strategies, and even people can't change hearts. Now, I didn't expect this course to reach so deeply into who I really am and what I stand for. I didn't sign up for that. However, I feel like I've gained a deeper understanding of myself and what I believe about education than I ever had when I started. So now I'm left with a somewhat bleak yet hopeful conclusion. Nothing will be perfect. We've got to do the best with what we've been given. We've got to love these kids like they are our own. We have to work to the best of our ability. We've got to try everything we possibly can to prepare them for the ever-changing world we live in. We have to keep trying.